Today, we're going to talk about mysticism. Mystics have often been pretty mysterious to UUs and pretty much everybody. What I'd like you to do today is start out by thinking about what first comes to your mind when you hear the word mystic. I'll wait a few seconds while you take note or write down a few thoughts about what you think a mystic is. Did anybody write anything down that you'd like to tell everybody else about? About what you think about when you hear mystic? Yes?
Mystic to me is somebody who has reached a place through worship over a period of time where they are in communion with whatever it is that is greater than we are, the sacred mystery. And they are able to literally feel that within them. That to me is mystic.
Anyone else? Yes?
Okay, I gotta do it. Pokemon Go, Team Mystic. Had to bring it.
Thank you.
I know, at least we were thinking that.
I think mystics usually have weird hair.
Big, vibrant,
Weird hair.
feathers, all that jazz.
Well, today I can tell you about some interesting mystics that can enrich your own mystical experiences. Mysticism, a word that comes from the Greek and relates to the word mystery, is the pursuit of achieving communion or identity with, or conscious awareness of, ultimate reality, the divine, spiritual truth, or God through direct experience, intuition, or insight, and the belief that such experience is an important source of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. A common theme in mysticism is that the mystic and all of reality are one. The purpose of mystical practices is to achieve that oneness in experience, to transcend limited identity and re-identify with the all that is. We UUs pride ourselves on the use of reason. In our statement of principles and purposes, we identify the first source of our living tradition, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. We're talking about mysticism here, direct experience of that mystery and wonder which opens us up to the forces of creating life. How many of us in this room have had what we would call a direct experience or intuition or ultimate reality, truth, God, or whatever we may call it? I have. We define ourselves according to rationalism. It is instructive that we can also define ourselves according to mysticism, and not in an either-or fashion, but rather as a both-and. We are a people who claim the freedom to construct our own beliefs and who, at the same time, insist that the way we live be congruent with what we say we believe. By necessity, mysticism is part of our heritage because such freedom, cast within the bounds of ethical living, demands that the beliefs claimed by each one of us must be authentic to us and personal. Authentic beliefs do not arise from the mind only, or even from the heart only. If we search deeply enough for what we believe, we will find that which our intuitive experience tells us. People can tend to dismiss mysticism as woo-woo or suspect in some way. People who have mystical experiences hesitate to share them for fear of appearing strange. But mysticism is another way of knowing. It is part of the UU tradition. Mystics of the world arise and claim your place. One of the functions of religion is to give a context to the messages we get from our own and the human unconscious. Mystical experiences, then, are the ways that we tell ourselves something, find meaning, connect with that which is greater than us. Human beings have never been content to stay put and believe what they are told. We have always wanted to explore further, to push the envelope, to experience for ourselves. We have always recognized multiple ways of knowing. Sometimes we explore with our minds, sometimes we push with our bodies. Sometimes we need to name the personal direct experiences we have that go beyond mind and body. In the 14th century Indian mystic poet Kabir wrote, "The swing
Between the conscious and the unconscious, the mind has put up a swing. All earth creatures, even the supernovas, sway between these two trees, and it never winds down. Angels, animals, humans, insects by the million, also the wheeling sun and moon. Ages go by and it goes on. Everything is swinging, heaven, earth, water, fire, and the secret one slowly growing a body. Kabir saw that for 15 seconds, and it made him a servant for life.
Most major religions contain a mystical component. Judaism has the Kabbalah, an ancient wisdom that reveals how the universe and life work. On a literal level, the word Kabbalah means to receive. It's the study of how to receive fulfillment of our lives. Martin Buber understood Hasidism, which began in Europe in the 17th century, as striving for a life lived in the unconditional presence of God, with no separation between the mundane and the profound divine. Oops. Next are the Sufis, who hold the mystical piece of Islam, dance in an effort to find another state of being, in which they become one with Allah. Also known as Sufi whirling, dervish dancing is a form of moving meditation channeled into a spinning dance. Tracing its roots back to Sufism, a mystical branch of Islam, and later influenced by the Turkish culture, dervish dancing pays homage to the mysterious spinning and cyclical movements of existence. As we know, all of life follows a circular pattern. Our blood, menstrual cycles, seasonal cycles, life cycles, and planetary cycles. By aligning with the natural pattern inherent in existence, dervish dancers also merge with the divine, often entering altered states of consciousness characterized by bliss and pure being. Here is a poem from Rumi and a video of the dervishes dancing.
How should the soul not take wings when from the glory of God it hears a sweet, kindly call? Where are you? Why are you here, soul? Arise. How should a fish not leap fast into the sea from dry land, when from the ocean so cool the sound of the waves reaches it? How should the falcon not fly back to his king from the hunt, when from the falconer's drum it hears to call, "Oh, come back"? Why should not every Sufi begin to dance atom-like around the sun of duration that saves from impermanence? What graciousness and what beauty, what life-bestowing, what grace. If anyone does without that, woe What air, what suffering? Oh fly, oh my soul bird, fly to your primordial home. You have escaped from the cage now, your wings are spread in the air. Oh, travel from brackish water now to the fountain of life.
Kristen and I actually saw the whirling dervishes when we were in Turkey a while ago, and I thought they were amazing. They train by putting a nail in the floor and putting one foot against it and twirling around with the other foot and keeping the one foot against the nail, because if they move it, it's going to hurt. So that's how they learn to do that. They are allowed to get married, but when they die, they're buried inside the mosque, and the women are buried outside the mosque, but they're allowed to have their wives. We saw their village and their houses, because back then people were really small. So the houses are only like this tall at the ceiling, and they were just all lined up in a round, like a big circle. Then they have the big, beautiful mosque with them. They actually are like in a trance. You get on their face, it looks like they're just like an angel, or they're just not here. They're just in a trance, and they're with God, and they're moving around with God. From another religious tradition, Christian mystics have abounded throughout the centuries. From Thomas Aquinas to Julian of Norwich, to Teresa of Avila, to William Blake, to Rainer Maria Rilke, to Thomas Merton. Nor does mysticism only occur in a religious context. Both William James and Ken Wilber point out that transcendent experiences may happen to anyone, regardless of religious training or inclinations. Such experiences can occur unbidden and without preparation at any time, and might not be understood as religious experiences at all. Momentary unity may be experienced by the artist or athlete as a perceived interconnection with existence, or a loss of self accompanied by feelings of euphoria, by the scientist as a spontaneous, ecstatic inspiration, by a prophet as an open channel of knowledge, or even dismissed as psychological disturbances in modern times. Anyone who lived through the 60s might know firsthand that for many, mystical experiences also occurred when taking drugs. Unitarian-universalists has a mystical history as well. In 1937, the president of the American Unitarian Association, Louis Cornish, declared that we belong among the mystics. Historically, Ralph Waldo Emerson emerges as our most articulate mystic. In his essays, Emerson describes the characteristics of mysticism. First, mystical knowledge is mysterious and not within our power to completely grasp. Emerson said, "Man is a stream whose source is hidden." Second, mysticism involves some sense of knowing or joining with an ultimate reality, whether God as we understand that world, or whether connection with another person. The consciousness of such an experience changes us. In his essay, The Oversoul, Emerson celebrates the human soul as part and particle with the eternal one, the unity of the universe. As part and particle, we commonly get glimpses or revelations of the one. Although such moments are brief, but these revelations can transform our hearts and minds. Thirdly, we cannot create mystical experiences or bring them about. They come on their own. As Emerson and Thomas Burton saw it, the task was to be present to the possibility of moments of revelation, these deepest secrets of nature.
From Thomas Merton. I live in the woods out of necessity. I get out of bed in the middle of the night because it is imperative that I hear the silence of the night alone and, with my face on the floor, say psalms alone in the silence of the night. It is necessary for me to live here alone without a woman, for the silence of the forest is my bride, and the sweet dark warmth of the whole world is my love, and out of the heart of that dark warmth comes the secret that is heard only in silence. But it is the root of all the secrets that are whispered by all the lovers in their beds all over the world. And from Henry David Thoreau, I do not say that John or Jonathan, that this generation or the next, will realize all this, but such is the character of that morrow, which mere lapse of time can never make to dawn. The light which puts out our eyes is darkness to us. Only that day dawns to which we are awake. There is more day to dawn. The sun is but a morning star.
Emerson suggested we might experience hints of the reality of the active soul when we are in conversation, remorse, passion, surprise, and dreams. I would add that meditation, prayer, contemplation, asceticism, chanting, dancing, running, drugs, natures are also venues through which the mystical arrives. Of experiences with his transcendentalist friends, Emerson wrote, "In excited conversation, we have glimpses of the universe, hints of power native to the soul, far-darting lights and shadows of an Andes landscape, such as we can hardly attain in lone meditation. Here are oracles sometimes profusely given, to which the memory goes back to barren hours," from the Oversoul. Mysticism does not require solitude. Mystical experiences come unbidden to most people, although some make conscious attempts to have them with various levels of success. Unless one is highly evolved spiritually, one cannot explain them or understand them fully. We can only remain open to their coming. From the essay Circles, life is a series of surprises. We do not guess today the mood, the pleasure, the power of tomorrow when we are building up our being. Of lower states of acts of routine and sense, we can tell somewhat, but the masterpieces of God, the total growth in universal movements of the soul, He hideth, and they are incalculable. I can know that truth is divine and helpful, but how it shall help me, I can have no guess, for so is to be the sole inlet of so to know. Unless we are in that mystical flow, we cannot know it. In the Oversoul, Emerson writes, "We know the truth when we see it. Let skeptic and scoffer say what they choose. Foolish people ask you, when you have spoken, what they do not wish to hear. How do you know it is the truth and not an error of your own? We know the truth when we see it, from opinion, and we know when we are awake that we are awake." Mystical experiences are personal. How do we determine the mystical from the delusional, from the psychotic? Emerson himself expressed wariness and was, as Richard Gilden so charmingly put, a spokesman for sanity in matters of the spirit. Beware of the man who says, "I am on the eve of a revelation." How do we beware? Anyone's mystical revelation have to be accounted for in relation to community, traditions, morality, consensus. U.S. Minister Mark Valenti points out that mysticism can be the moving force in prophecy, social action, ancient and modern. For the authority of the prophet comes from within, from the still, small voice, which nonetheless necessarily speaks the dialect of a particular culture. You might know of the prophet Elijah, who stood upon Mount Horeb and said, "Behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after all the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire a still small voice." From 1 Kings 19. And when Elijah heard it, he left the mountain and went on his way as a prophet. The prophet's fidelity to the authenticity, empowering nature of his or her direct, subjective experience of reality is within the balancing context of a critical, supportive community. This is a mysticism's internal gyroscope, the balance pole for the wire walker. Furthermore, whatever I experience, mystically speaking, is not to be taken as the truth, but rather as my truth. It may or may not speak to anyone beyond myself. If, in any tradition, mystical experiences share common traits, then a particular community or tradition might assign a larger than personal understanding to them. For example, the mystical experience I had in New Mexico and here in my meditation garden are in line with the beliefs of several Native American belief systems. Even though I know nothing of these traditions at that time, my vision was somehow made more potent for me when I saw how it fit into other beliefs. This also happens in Buddhism in Tibet, which contains much mysticism, and that tradition has articulated shared meanings for mysticism. How one recognizes the next incarnation of the Dalai Lama, for instance. Here is a Tibetan mantra meditation. As in the Sufi video, you will notice the repetitive melodies, almost hypnotic, which transforms the worshiper into a divine place.
Namo Kunjuk Songdong Sawa Sung Kyap Ni Nam Lan Kyap Su Chi Rokun Sang Ki Long Go Jun Jung Chuk Chuk Doi Sem Ki Lu Kunjuk Songdong Sawa Sung Kyap Ni Nam Lan Kyap Su Chi Jokun Sanghe Long Go Jun Jung Chuk Chuk Doi Sem Ki Lu Kun Chuk Song Dong Sawa Sung Kyap Ni Nam Lan Kyap Su Chi Jokun Sanghe Long Go Jun Jung Chuk Chuk Doi Sem Ki.
Mysticism is another way of knowing. It's a way of telling ourselves something, a way of finding meaning, of connecting with that which is the ultimate. Mystical experiences are mysterious and not fully understandable. They come unbidden and they transform us because the sense of connection they offer makes an indelible impression. One cannot claim ultimate truth for one's mystical experiences unless a consensus exists within the community about the meaning of such experiences. The mystic is counterbalanced by the norms and ethics and beliefs of his or her community. But one can open oneself to mystical experiences if one believes they exist and if one is willing. Let me end with "Is My Soul Asleep" by the Spanish poet Antonio Machado.
Is my soul asleep? Have those beehives that work in the night stopped? And the water wheel of thought, is it going around now, cups empty, carrying only shadows? No, my soul is not asleep. It is awake, wide awake. It neither sleeps nor dreams, but watches, its eyes wide open, far off things, and listens at the shores of great silence.
We watch at the shores of the great silence. When the world is too much for us and we can't see a way, we retreat to the shores of great silence. When our pain or joy is too much to express, we mourn or dance at the shores of great silence. Mysticism isn't an experience for a chosen few. It is the experiences we have beyond what we consciously know and regularly feel. Mysticism is a part of our lives. At the beginning, I asked you to think about your ideas about mysticism. I'd like you to add to that list some everyday experiences of mysticism. What can you imagine now as a mystical experience? Maybe the birth of a child? Or the still small voice when you feel abandoned? Mysticism is your strength, your language that transcends the words we have in our head. Let us stand and sing 123, Spirit of Life.